Thank you for that introduction. My name's Andrew Ferrier. I'm the Managing Director of Global Uranium Enrichment. It's an ASX-listed company. We're obviously focused on building a uranium company, in particular in North America. So there's 4 or 5 key points I'm trying to get across over the next 5 to 10 minutes. It's a short presentation, but the key points are we're well funded. We have all the money we need for the next 12 months to execute on our programs in the US. We have high quality projects, both in the US, mainly in Colorado and Utah, and we also have around 6 different projects in the Athabasca Basin, which Pete from Basin gave you a great introduction to why people want to be in the Athabasca Basin. The next key point is our team. Team is absolutely fundamental, especially in the uranium space. Good people that have worked in the uranium industry for a long time are few and far between just because of the savage nature of the cycle. But we have a very experienced team of US professionals that work with us on our projects. And the thing that sort of makes Global Uranium unique is our investment into the enrichment space. Enrichment is an absolutely fundamental step in the nuclear fuel cycle. We've invested into a company called Uranium, which is based in Australia. It's a chemical enrichment technology which is progressing there, and we're the largest shareholder and very excited about that opportunity. On top of all of what we're working on, you've got the fundamentals of the uranium space. I'm sure you're going to hear from all of the uranium companies speaking about just how well the macro environment it is. Fundamentally, the industry has been uninvested in for the last 10, 11 years. That means there's absolute supply deficit. The world has gone nuclear over the last 2 to 3 years. The build-outs that are occurring across the world are going to mean that the world's just going to need more and more uranium. We're particularly focused in the US. The US is in a very interesting spot at the moment where nuclear is still the biggest part of their energy. It's 20%. But as you can see from the graph there on the bottom left-hand corner, there's effectively very little production of uranium coming out of the US. That's left them very reliant on uranium, particularly enriched uranium coming out of Russia, and probably talk a little bit more about it on the panel session coming up in an hour or so. But they've announced recently $2.7 billion of funding to go into the enrichment space. They're very close to banning Russian uranium. That's going to set companies like ourselves with projects in the US very well over the next couple of months as we continue to develop our projects. So what do we have? Our main asset is the Tallahassee projects. It's a JORC compliant resource of 50 million pounds today. It is a big project. It's one of the largest undeveloped projects, uranium projects in the US. We're going to be very active on that project over the next 6 to 12 months. We plan on drilling it come the 1st of May. We'll take that drill work, accumulate with all the other existing data we have on the project and put out a scoping study later this year. On top of that, we've got our Maybell project, which we also plan to drill, and then our pretty extensive portfolio in the Athabasca. This is our Tallahassee project. It's in Colorado. We have, as I said, we have close to a 50 million pound resource there today. The entire district's around 90 million pounds. It's a good grade, 540 ppm for the US in that part of the world is very good grades. It's shallow. It's a project that's generated significant interest in the past, significant historical production. And as you can see there by just how many black dots there are, there's 350,000 metres of drilling done on this project. We're blessed with all that data. The time and cost it would take to replicate that would be tens of millions of dollars in years and years and years. So over the last 12 to 18 months, we've pulled this project together. We've got our permits in place. We'll be doing a small core program come May this year. We just need some additional fresh core to do some metallurgical test work. We don't need to make this project bigger. It's got critical mass already. We're not drilling to try and add a few more pounds here and there. We just need it for a bit more met test work. So that's a pretty exciting deposit for us. Obviously one we're going to pretty quickly advance over the next 6 to 12 months. This is our Maybell uranium project. It's also in Colorado. We picked up this project ourselves over the last 12 to 18 months, effectively staked it, and through data acquisitions have been able to gather a huge amount of data on the project. As you can hopefully see there again, if you look at the northern part of Maybell, each one of those dots, which is actually hard to see, is a drill hole, right? We've now digitized all that data. It's a huge undertaking. This produced over 5 million pounds of uranium at good grades, 1300 ppm. It was a heap leach facility. We know it's amenable to leaching, and we've basically stitched together the district. We put out a very high level exploration target on that project. It was conservative relative to what you see other exploration targets have. It was for sort of 5 to 13 million pounds of uranium. That was just the near surface uranium, basically, that sit between the existing pits that exist at Maybell. So it was very conservative. We're going to get out there and drill this project July, August this year. We're going to have a pretty substantial program. We're going to be doing RC drilling, basically to convert that exploration target into a resource. Most companies in the US at the moment with development stage projects are trading at roughly US dollar per pound. We can see our valuation going up 3 to 4 times as we sort of gravitate towards that number. So at Maybell, we're talking about getting a resource there of 5 to 10 million pounds. You can see how much value add a smallish RC program can achieve for us. Then on top of that, we have our projects in the Athabasca. Very similar to what Basin was saying, we were looking for projects which had a real chance of exploration success. You can see all these projects are on the fringe of the basin. We're looking for basement-style hosted deposits. Our key project that we've been working on is our Newnham Lake and Perch projects, which you can see up there on the top right or the northeast of the basin. We did a whole bunch of airborne work about 12 months ago. That project has a permit on it. We're sort of weighing up exactly what the next steps are with the entire portfolio, but in particular Newnham and Perch. There's a lot of interest in the Athabasca at the moment. The uranium price has obviously gone up. The whole basin seems like it's entirely staked at this point in time. So there's a lot of interest, and we're just working through that at the moment. But what we have is about 60,000 hectares of projects in the Athabasca Basin, which could easily be a standalone ASX company at this point in time. On top of that, the sort of third leg to the stool, and easily the most potential upside, is our Uberian investment. We made this investment 12 months ago. Uberian is different to how Enrichment is currently done today through centrifuges. It's different to a well-known other ASX. It's a company called Silex, which has a laser technology. Uberian has a chemical enrichment technology. It has some pretty unique characteristics that give it a big advantage moving forward. The world needs more enrichment capacity. The US at the moment is completely reliant, as I said, on Russian enriched uranium coming in. They're going to be throwing a lot of money at building out their domestic capabilities on this front, and Uberian stands in a great position to take advantage of that moving forward. Here's our corporate overview. As I said, well funded, $6.5 million in the bank today. We've got a market cap of $30 million, which doesn't make sense for the projects we have. But I think, at this stage, we're well funded. We've got a very clear game plan for both our Tallahassee projects and Maybell projects in Colorado. We have the money to drill them, to complete the scoping studies. So I think we'll see pretty rapid, the share price being well rewarded for shareholders over the next 3 to 6 months, or even shorter that when we get out the news flow of these programs. The team, absolutely fundamental. The two probably key guys, you've got myself and Fabrizio as the chairman, but the two guys in the US are Tim Brown and Jim Villeneuve. Jim and I have worked together for around 10 to 15 years in other ventures in the uranium space in the US. He permitted a uranium mine in the US and makes it one of few people have actually done that over the last couple of decades. So we know what we're doing from a permitting perspective, which is incredibly important in the US, and we know how to de-risk and add value to these projects going into a uranium bull market. So that's the story. You sort of get the key points. We have the money we need to do what we want to do. We know what we're doing in the US. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to want to grow. We're going to want to get bigger. And we have the Athabasca story and the Uberian story on top of that. So we're jam-packed full of assets. And it's going to be pretty interesting 3 to 6 months moving forward. Thank you.